Hey everyone, hope that you guys are having a fantastic day so far. Welcome to the very first video for Align. You can go check out alignfitness.co.za and please be sure to like and subscribe and share this video at the end if you do enjoy it. This video is probably going to be a bit longer than most of my others will be, but that's because I don't want to leave anything out. I don't want to forget anything. I want to be completely open and honest and vulnerable and lay everything out there on the table for you guys. And as excited as I am to film this first video, I'm pretty nervous and a bit scared to film it. It's not an easy one, but it's important for me to start with this video because to understand where the concept of Align came from, I need to give you my background and my personal experiences. So yeah, that's why I'm starting with this video. And I want people to see that there is hope. It doesn't matter how much you might feel like you are stuck in an unhealthy habit, in unhealthy cycles, you can break free of those. And no matter how big the pit seems that you might be in and that you can't climb out of it, you really, really can. And you can live your healthiest, happiest, most fulfilling life. So that is what I really pray that this video will do. So just bear with me if it's a little bit long. I'm sorry, it's not easy. It's not an easy video to film, but yeah, we will get there. So just some background on me. I have been an athlete my entire life. I started playing tennis when I was very young, and from the age of about 11, I decided I wanted to be a professional tennis player when I grew up. So all my focus and my energy was devoted towards achieving this goal. Training for hours every day. I absolutely loved it. It was my identifier. I didn't know the Lord at the time, so my label that I gave myself was tennis player. If someone had asked me who is Andrea, the first thing I would have said is she's a tennis player. And during these years of training, I ate like an absolute machine. I never gave a second's thought to calories, or I don't think I even knew what I weighed. I ate healthily, or relatively healthily, because I was an athlete, but I really wasn't preoccupied with how much I was eating or when I was eating or a number on the scale or anything like that. And then when I finished high school, I went to go and play the professional circuit, and I very quickly realized that I didn't enjoy it at all and that it wasn't actually what I wanted to do with my life. And so I felt like such a failure, like all of these years and all of this, the energy and the money and everything that had been put into this, and I felt worthless. I had felt like I had no control in my life anymore. And so what's an easy thing to control is what you eat. So it started as just a little bit of a diet, eating a little bit healthier, exercising a little bit more, which was almost impossible at the time, but there you are. And then it kind of goes a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further, and then one day you wake up and you're in this pit and you actually have no idea how you got there. So yeah, this progressed. It got progressively worse over a period of about 8 years. I was anorexic, I was bulimic, sometimes I was orthorexic. I like to compare having an eating disorder to being in an abusive relationship, because sometimes you're in a serious relationship with anorexia. You sometimes are kind of flirting with orthorexia. It goes through different seasons and different phases. And this lasted throughout varsity. I got progressively worse. I reached the point where I was so thin that I developed a cardiac arrhythmia, which is an irregular heartbeat. I damaged my liver. I felt dizzy all the time. I was constantly cold. I couldn't sit for long periods of time because it was too painful to sit on my bones all the time. I got extremely sick, and I actually got sent home from university. I was at university in California. I got sent home to South Africa to recover because my health was at a very, very dangerous point. I was extremely sick. And so then I came home and I recovered for a semester. Then I went back and finished university. And yeah, but it wasn't a full I was weight restored, but I wasn't recovered. My mindset, those toxic thought patterns were still there, and I pretty much just went straight back into those unhealthy habits. And during this time, actually, I mean, I wasn't honest with the recovery process. You know, when I would go for weigh-ins and to check how I was doing, I would water load, which is when you you drink a lot of water to make yourself heavier, and sometimes I would even put weights in my clothing so that I would be heavier. So it really was an actual recovery. And the problem that I realized that there's there's a problem with food, in the sense that if you are struggling with, let's say, alcohol, you can abstain from having alcohol. But food is something that we all have to face and we have to make choices about every day. So it's not something that you can just abstain from and then everything is going to get better. That's kind of what got me in that situation in the first place, is abstaining from food. So it doesn't work. And that's why it's so important to me that people can see that it's vital to have a healthy relationship with yourself and with your body and with food, because it's not something that you can just avoid for the rest of your life. And I'm just gonna put this out as a disclaimer. This is in no way intended to be tips and tricks on how to lose weight. In fact, I hope it does the exact opposite. But I'm going to be completely open and blunt about this and say it exactly like it is, because I've often heard people say things like, oh, I engaged in unhealthy behaviors when I had an eating disorder. But I don't think that people who haven't experienced an eating disorder can fully understand just how unhealthy and how shocking those behaviors can actually get, if it gets to that point of being completely out of control. So that's why I'm going to lay it all out there. I know a lot of it is shocking. It's not easy to talk about, but the end goal will be worth it, because people can see that it doesn't matter what you were engaging in or how bad it got, it can get better and you can recover from it. But yeah, so full disclaimer, this is intended to do exactly the opposite of being tips and tricks, because this certainly doesn't work and it's extremely dangerous. And yeah, yeah, we'll, sorry, just bear with me. Yeah, I'm sorry if this is quite rough to hear, but I just need to be honest about it and show people that it can get completely out of control beyond anything that you can actually think of when you think of the term unhealthy behaviors. But during these 8 years, I'm not saying this in any particular order, just as they come to mind, and you know, this went through different phases. Sometimes I did some of this, sometimes I did other parts of it. You know, it wasn't all happening at once. But at some point, somewhere in this 8-year period, all of these things happened regularly. I chewed so many packs of gum. Sometimes I would chew up to 3 packs of gum a day. I would try and eat less than 300 calories a day. Sometimes I would try and live on no calories a day, which is not living. I would try to exist on no calories a day. That inevitably leads you to this point where you're so hungry that you can't control yourself anymore, and so then you binge eat, and so then it's a starve, binge, purge cycle. I lost control like that every single week, where I was so hungry I just couldn't control myself anymore. I didn't drink any water because I was so afraid of the number on the scale going up, and I knew that even drinking water would do that. I remember one time being so thirsty that I downed a 500 milliliter bottle of Coke Zero, Coke Zero, nothing in it, no calories. But I almost had a panic attack at that because I knew I was going to be, 500 grams or a pound or half a kilo heavier just from that Coke that I had drank. So I didn't drink any water. I weighed the food that I ate obsessively. I weighed myself obsessively. Sometimes I weighed myself more than 10, 15 times a day. When I was working in San Francisco, sometimes I would literally take my scale in a backpack with me to work so that I could weigh myself throughout the day. It was completely obsessive. I had to know what that number said. I was so petrified of losing control that I had to have that scale with me everywhere that I went. And I I lied a lot over these 8 years. I would go to a friend's house and say, "Oh no, I ate at home," and then wouldn't eat at home, and lie about where you've been, lie to people about what your weight is, just being dishonest. And also, I mean, there's just that pervading lie of when people say, "Oh, how are you doing?" "Oh, I'm fine, I'm good, things are great," and it really, really isn't. So there's a lot of deceit, a lot of hiding, a lot of dishonesty in eating disorders as well. I bought or stole thousands of laxatives in this time, tens of thousands. I can't. It's an unimaginable number. Yeah, and I would abuse those with starving, binging, purging, taking laxatives, over exercising. I fainted quite a few times. One time I fainted at a mall, and I actually hit my face on like a banister, and this entire side of my face was completely black and blue for weeks afterwards. Yeah, I had to cover it up with this very thick concealer to go to work, and yeah, it was very dangerous. I fractured. I think there was like a hairline fracture in my one of the bones here as well from hitting my face. So yeah, I fainted. I went through a period where I experienced crazy insomnia. I couldn't sleep for months, and my brain just could not switch off. I was constantly anxious, constantly fidgeting and nervous. Yeah, and that not being able to sleep was very, very bad, and it's absolutely exhausting. And I reached the point where I labeled foods as good and bad, which I think a lot of people do, but I did it to such an extreme that I remember once having a full-blown panic attack about eating an apple. Yeah, it's your thoughts just get completely twisted and illogical. And yeah, I really wouldn't wish that mindset on anybody. It's exhausting. But yeah, so panic attacks about food. When I would come home from university to visit my family, I would hide food in all kinds of crazy places, um, in in containers, in my mom's beautiful uh, decorative vases, things like that. Um, and my family, I mean, there was pretty much nothing that they could do. I mean, I'm on the other side of the world for most of the time, and so they just have to watch. And I think it's extremely, extremely difficult for the loved ones of someone who's going through something like this, because you just feel completely helpless. But so what I would also do when I was visiting, I would keep a container in the cupboard in my bedroom so that I could throw up into the container instead of going to the bathroom, just to avoid arousing anyone's suspicion, like, why is she in the bathroom all the time. So would just keep a container in my cupboard and throw up in there and then discard it later. um, and I also reached the point where I would chug a half jack of vodka or some kind of hard liquor when I felt like I was really hungry and I really wanted to eat something. I would chug this liquor literally to knock myself unconscious, so that I couldn't eat. It was like taking a sleeping pill, or just anything to lose consciousness so that I would be passed out and not able to eat. And I also did that when I reached the point, which towards the end, I reached this point quite often where I felt like I could not be in my own head anymore. I needed out. I wanted out. I couldn't take it anymore. And so then also I would just swig this alcohol and knock myself out, and not have to think about it anymore. It was a very extreme sense, or a very extreme form of numbing myself. And yeah, so that was pretty much the lowest of the low. I remember one time, my poor younger sister, I think she was just so frustrated and worried, and she didn't know what else to do. But I remember she said to me one day, "You are going to die if you keep doing this. If you keep this up, you are going to die." And I remember my immediate thought when she said that was, okay, well, like, that's not, is that the worst? Like, that's not so bad. So yeah, it was an absolute nightmare, not just for me, probably much more so for my family. I did enormous damage to my closest relationships in this time. My mom was so stressed and so worried about me that she got physically sick. My dad and my sisters, they were completely beside themselves. They just didn't know what to do. I think it's this feeling of being completely helpless and watching your loved one just kind of disappear and destroy themselves, and there's nothing that you can do about it. So yeah, that went on, all of those things at some point. I hope I haven't left anything out. But yeah, I can't really think of anything else. But it's just this constant battle in your mind, and you get into these habits and these thought patterns, and they just, like any other habit, it just, the more you practice it, the stronger it gets, and you reach a point where you just feel like you can't do things any other way. I remember getting off the treadmill one time after running for an hour, in addition to hours of tennis training at university. But I remember getting off the treadmill and thinking to myself, I may never be able to stop doing this. Like, this is just the way it's always going to be. And it was such a terrifying thought. That's also why I'm putting this video out there, because if there's someone out there who is thinking something like that, I will never be able to stop doing this. I'll never be able to stop this binge purge, or starve binge purge cycling. You can break free of that. You do not need to keep doing this forever. And recovery definitely didn't happen overnight. When I actually started to recover properly and take it seriously, I met the Lord, and I discovered my true value and my identity in Him. And through His love and His grace and His mercy, I could slowly but surely start to discover who I actually was and who He created me to be. And I could renew my mind, and I could develop healthy, sustainable habits after that. So it definitely didn't happen overnight, but it did happen, and so there is hope. It won't happen like that, but it will happen if you just give it over to the Lord, and you just relinquish this sense of, this illusion of control. And it's so ironic, because you think that you are controlling the food and your body, meanwhile you are being completely controlled. Yeah, it's crazy how our thoughts can can escalate and be magnified in our own minds. But yeah, you are definitely not in control. But if you just give it over to the Lord, and you take the time and the effort and the energy into recovery, it definitely is possible. So yeah, that is where the concept of Align came from. When I was in recovery, I learned what works for me, what is sustainable for me, because I think that most people can relate to this thing of especially starve binge, or starve binge purge cycling. That thing of, okay, it's Monday morning, my diet starts today, I'm going to eat super healthy this week, and then then you eat something that you've labeled as bad, and then you feel like a failure, and so there's self-condemnation, and then it's, oh no, I messed up, I cheated, I was bad, I ate a bad food, I got to start again. The diet starts tomorrow, and so it goes on and on and on, and then then again you restrict yourself, and you get so hungry that then eventually reach that point where you can't help yourself, and you binge, and then you feel bad, and so then you restrict again, or you purge by over exercising, or taking laxatives or diuretics, or whatever it is. I know that most people's stories are not as extreme as mine is, but I think that most people can relate to that cycling of restricting and then overeating, and restricting and overeating. So yeah, and it doesn't have to be like that. You don't have to live in this constant cycle of extremes, of good foods and bad foods, and of beating yourself up and feeling like a failure, or feeling guilty because you ate a cupcake. It doesn't need to be like that. You need to find out what is sustainable for you, and that was what helped me so much in recovery, and that is what Align is all about, is helping you to figure out what works for you. You must ask yourself questions like, what foods do I enjoy? What exercise do I enjoy? Because I think a lot of people are convinced that they need to eat these foods, and you need to do this kind of exercise that the media is, proclaiming at the moment. And then there's this fad diet that you need to do, and then there's that, and there's so much misinformation. And I really believe from the bottom of my heart that the only thing that is sustainable is eating and doing physical activities that you enjoy. So that is what Align is all about, is something that you can maintain. It's not a crash diet, it's not a 1 week program, it's not a 2 week program. It's learning and developing and firmly establishing healthy habits that you can maintain for the rest of your life. So yeah, we'll get more into that in the next video. I hope that this has been helpful. I'm sorry, I know parts of it are shocking and a little bit rough, but just know that you can break out of it, and it doesn't matter what kind of thoughts you are having. I really understand, and if it's a diet, I've tried it. I probably have had whatever thoughts you are having, and ask for help. Ask people for help. That's one thing I really, really wish I would have done earlier. I would have saved my family and myself so much pain and heartache, and just darkness. So reach out for help. There are people who understand. I really understand. I get it, and that is really my heart's desire with Align, is to help you to form a healthy relationship with yourself, and a healthy relationship with food and exercise and your body. So let's figure out what works for you, not what the media says should work for you, or not what the media says you must do, and you must just make it work for you. Let's figure out what works for you, and what is healthy for you, and what makes you the best version of you that you can be. So yeah, thank you so much for checking out the video. Please be sure to subscribe and like and share it, and go check out alignfitness.co.za. I really look forward to hearing from you, and I will see you guys in the next video. And always remember that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Bye, you guys.